Good evening, ma'am. This is Anjali from Navy Children's School, Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Nirmala Yadav from NCS Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Neha Arya from NCS Karanja.
A very good evening,
This
ma'am.
is
I'm Mrs. Geeta from Karanja, NCS Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Sanjay Panna from NCS Karanja.
Good evening,
Good
ma'am.
evening, ma'am. This is Anu Kumari from NCS Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. Shilpa Paditkar from St. Anne School, Talegaon, Dabhade.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Rita Das from Gyanmata, Nanded.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Shraddha Rai from NCS Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Chinmay
Good
Chakravarti from
evening,
Arya
ma'am.
Gurukul,
This is
Kalyan.
Ritu Savar from NCS Karanja.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Poonam Survase from DPS Bid.
From Nanded.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Rajeshri Kohole from CIPS Tapsi.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Swara Matulkar from CIPS Tapsi.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Vinder Kaur from APS Khadgwasla.
Good evening, ma'am. Vinita Srivastav from St. Lawrence International School.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Sangeeta Kamdi from CIPS Kapsi.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Ritu Singh here from Brighton World School, Kalyan West.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Manami Bhattacharya from the Vatsalya School, Pune.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Pradnya Shinde from St. Xavier School, Mahad.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Tejasvi Kanade from Rotary English Medium School, Khed.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Rupali More from APS Khadakwasla.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Sangeeta Gundar from MGM School, Nehru.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Nigar Sheikh from St. Lawrence International School.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Samina Manasawala, and I head the nurturing domain at Kaveri Gifted Education and Research Center. And it's wonderful to see such a large cohort of educators from across schools. We're very happy to have you join us today. Please give us some time and we will start.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Usha from Sangmeshwar Public School, Solapur.
Good evening, ma'am. Myself, Omkar Santosh Parangudkar from Manav Mandir High School from Mumbai.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Riya Karnani from Nath Valley School, Aurangabad, Maharashtra.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Preeti Shinde, Gyanmata School, Nanded.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Dr. Pranali Garge from Nath Valley School, Aurangabad.
Good evening to everyone. Myself, Manjot Kaur Sohal from Nagarjuna Public School, Nanded. And good evening, ma'am, to you as well.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Suvarna Kaur, Bus International School, Chikli, Pune.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Manjeet Kaur from Dheeraj International School.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Savita Binde from Nath Valley School, Aurangabad.
वही देख रही हूँ। रेड रेड हाँ वो देखो अगर मैं तुम्हें कॉल करती हूँ
From Kaveri College is going to be doing this one coordination.
Yes, do we need something? Devsana ma'am?
No, I just want to know, is the sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah, and Vandana has a PPT, so you might have to give her the.
Yes. So Pooja ma'am will make you and Vandana ma'am co-host.
Okay, thank you. Our voice is okay, Samina?
Yes, it's okay.
You don't have to start recording now. I think we can record as soon as everybody comes in.
Okay. Pooja ma'am, can you make Devsana ma'am the co-host, please?
Is anyone introducing us or starting the initial, or only me?
No, you can go ahead once Vandana ma'am joins us, I guess.
Okay.
And it's 8 o'clock. We'll wait for participants to join.
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh,
hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Yes, hello everyone.
If I can just request all participants to just take a minute to fill the form. I'm putting the link in the chat box. Pooja ma'am, if you can allow me, or if you can put this in the chat box for everyone to fill. Teachers, it will help us, and participants will help us to just know who all have joined us today. We would love to share more information with you on gifted education. So if you can please fill up this form, which will be put in the chat box shortly.
I have not got the link as yet. Excuse me.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Even I haven't received any link.
I think the link will be shared in the
Good
chat
evening.
box here. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can you please share it?
Yeah, even I haven't received. Yeah.
Yes, just give us a minute and we will share it.
Sure.
Pooja ma'am, can you please also enable the chat box so if people write comments, then we are able to see.
So, Mina, we've had a request from somebody if everyone could be muted, because I think there's a few people who haven't muted.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I just wanted to know what time is the session going to start, because the time mentioned to us on the link is 7:30, but here it's mentioned as 8 p.m. So is there any difference in the time?
Yes, it is 8 to 9 o'clock.
Okay. So, okay, fine, ma'am. Yeah.
Will we start, Savina?
Pooja ma'am, just wanted to know if we've sent the form to everyone.
Maltita is unable to join because there's a 300 limit.
Hmm.
Yeah. And some of our office people were unable to join. Shall we? I think it's about time.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, we haven't received the link for form. Chat box is also not open.
Just give us some time.
We'll do
I'm
it
sure
towards
we'll
the
be able
end.
to.
Let's just start the webinar without delay.
Fine.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Devsena Desai, Associate Director for Kaveri Gifted Education and Research Center. And it's my pleasure to have with us Vandana Poria. Before we begin, I'd like to share that this initiative is towards our pre-conference awareness program, which we are doing. Our international conference on gifted education, Eliminate India, creating connections among gifted education stakeholders, is scheduled for 18th and 19th in Pune at the Kaveri Group of Institutes Auditorium. We welcome one and all, and we are very overwhelmed with the response from a lot of people. And I know it's an area which is coming up and a lot needs to be discussed. I have a very interesting guest today with me, and it's my pleasure to have this conversation with her. I've had innumerable conversations, and each time it's a feeling of being enlightened. Vandana Saxena Poria, Order of British Empire, is a visionary, disruptor, and master storyteller. As a UK chartered accountant and advisor for ICAEW in India, she has pioneered startups, driven transparency in the accounting profession. Don't be fooled that she is so much into accounting, but she also has other hats that she carries very well. She's a co-author of Let Me Hijack Your Mind, along with Alak Padamsi. Vandana creates programs that inspire, transform, using narratives to guide corporate teams through change. Awarded the OBE in 2008, she is a top UK India influencer, championing diverse, inclusive environments. It's very brief. I know there are a lot of facets to Vandana. And Vandana, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud and humbled to be here.
We are very excited because it's a very big moment for us to have this launching our international conference. And we have educators, parents, and students who are excited to know more about giftedness. So we would like to begin with, why don't you just share a little more about yourself?
Okay, so do you want me to go through the slides or just have a chat with you? What would work
You
better?
can start with the slides and then we can continue having conversations in between as well.
Sure. Okay. So, hello everyone. It's great to be here. I know when you hear my accent, you think Brit or British. I was born in England. I was brought up there, but I've spent the last 25 years actually outside of England. And in fact, I've spent, in fact, it's more than that now, because I've spent the last 19 years in India. And before that, I was in Eastern Europe for 10 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my presentation to give you a brief kind of roller coaster ride of me. And then I'll stop and talk to Dr. Desai as I go through it. So I put question mark plus question mark plus question mark because I'm still working it out. I think for most of us, we are just working it out. Am I different? Am I not different? What does this label mean? Etc. etc. But I think the starting point is worth. Do you mind, Dr. Desai, if I just go back to when we met, and then I'll go back to the beginning. But my journey with the giftedness actually started in 2017, and it was because I was doing a TEDx talk in Pune, and so was Samina. Samina was doing a talk on working with gifted children. And I was doing a talk on what if the world was different? What if the world had always been run 80% by women? What could it look like? And I did my presentation. I was the first speaker. And then Samina spoke after me. So I remember doing my presentation, not sure how it had gone. And I sat down to listen to Samina. And Samina started talking about the kids that she worked with. And she started talking about some of them having hypersensitivity, some of them being difficult, some of them having these great gifts. And as she talked, I actually burst into tears. I started crying because all I could think about were my children. And my children at that time were probably about 8 and 10 or so. And everything she said reminded me of what I was going through with my children. So afterwards at the break, you know, the speakers, we get to know each other a little bit. So at the break, I went to Samina and I was like in tears and I was like, Samina, oh my God, your presentation was so wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. And she said, oh, good, I'm glad. And I said, but I need to talk to you because I think my kids might be gifted. And she looked at me and she smiled and she said, I think you need to meet my mentor. And she gave me Dr. Devasena's card and it said Counselor for Gifted Adults. And I looked at Samina and I went, no, I don't need someone for myself. I need someone for my children. And she said, I think you need to meet her. She heard your presentation and she really enjoyed it. And she's looking forward to hearing from you. So I went down to Dr. Desai's office and I launched into how I really need some advice for my children and all the difficulties I was having. And she said, look, no, stop. She said, we need to deal with you first. And I laughed and I said, well, I don't understand why. And she said, because if you don't understand what it's like for you to be gifted, how are you going to deal with your kids? And I just burst out laughing. And I said, I'm not gifted. And I did so badly at school. And she said, is that what you think giftedness is? And so started my journey. And she basically said to me, she's a tough cookie. she basically said to me, "We will not work with your children until I have worked with you." And I was like, okay, but I'm not gifted and you're going to be very disappointed. and that's how it kind of started. And slowly over time, I started looking at definitions, and there's two very interesting definitions that I'm putting up here, just briefly. One is from an American organization, and one is one that Gavri is working on at the moment. And it doesn't really, in a way, for me in this presentation, it doesn't really matter which one it is. I probably resonate much more with Gavri's definition. But what I've tried to do in this presentation is, and we'll keep going back, is try and give you an idea of what it was like for me and what it took to convince me that I was gifted. And I still have a problem with that, because I've been brought up, this is me, this is baby me, this is baby me, this is more very misfit me, this is misfit me, this is even more misfit me, and this was me at my brother's birthday. But I was like this loud, uncontrollable child. I had a lot of energy, and I was extremely difficult. Not much to look at. Looked, you know, everyone used to say that when I was growing up, everyone used to call me annoying. I was the annoying child. And I found it very difficult to make friends because I couldn't sit still and I couldn't concentrate on anything. So I was always dashing about, and that made life very difficult. Somehow, though, it transformed to now, where I've worked with all of these companies, and I've done a lot of very, very different things, which we'll talk about a bit later. But yes, so childhood, I think if I flick to something about childhood, hold on one sec. I was this is who I was. I was screamed at a lot by my parents because they couldn't handle me. And I think my dad was bipolar, kind of narcissistic. So he was quite angry towards me. My mum tried to be loving, but found me very difficult. I was quite unpopular. I was hypersensitive. So if anyone so much as raised their voice at me, I would burst into tears. And any new situations used to unnerve me. I ended up being a bit of a troublemaker at school because I was bored a lot of the time. Not necessarily that I was brilliant, but I got bored a lot of the time. And I did have a problem with attention. Dr. Desai, I'll stop there and just see if there's something you want to add before is there anything you want to ask? That's kind of me as a child. That was who I was.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at your childhood in hindsight. So the question for me is that when you have you knew that you were different and you were having all these characteristics that are very classical giftedness. And when you came to know about it late in adult life, what was your initial response? You did share that you had disbelief and you were finding it very hard to understand and accept. Why did you feel that way?
I think because I was told as a child, I was always told as a child that I was difficult and unremarkable, and yeah, I mean, it was so anti. And I think also for me, my brother is like a straight A student, you know, got sponsorships, got grants, you know, won awards and everything in the academic sense. And for me, you couldn't be gifted unless you had all of that. And although as a child I was very bright, I remember it was very easy for me to learn things and remember things, but I got bored very easily. And so it was a state of disbelief, because I did know that I was different, I did know from a very early age, because all my interests were so different to everyone else around me. And the things that I was doing were very, very different to the people around me. But I think it was very hard for me to accept that label, because it meant that I was brilliant in some way, and I never saw myself as being brilliant.
Would you say that parents look at the classical situation of academic excellence as the only form of
Yes.
giftedness?
Yes, I think even now today, I think there's very few parents that realize that there are other forms of giftedness that that kids have and demonstrate, but they go after academic performance too much, and they put too much pressure on the kids. I actually, at the age of 14, I tried to commit suicide because I had so much pressure on me from my parents. I was just like, I can't do this. And I was lonely, and I was, yeah, I have an older brother, but he was at boarding school. And I was on my own, and I just didn't think that I'd ever make anything of myself. And so I just thought it was easier to just quit. Obviously, I'm still here today. And I think when I woke up the next morning, I thought, well, if I'm here, I should make a go of things. But yes, I think parents do have that challenge.
Yeah, that's something that we need to really see and recognize, because we, as a society, we have been so much involved in just looking at the classical situations of giftedness that we often forget the different forms. And it needn't have to be that every one of them have to be performing and have to be on the top. It could be children from different categories, basically, because a lot of them even mask their giftedness, which I'm sure you are aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this is where, if I go back a few slides to, let me go to this. This is a very traditional Western definition of giftedness. And what I've put down, so it could be specific academic aptitude, and that's when people think, oh, he's brilliant, he's a genius, he's fantastic at maths, he can do chess, she can do you know, she can paint beautifully, you know, having some kind of aptitude. But that is only one part of it. And when I started looking at the definition, I have to tell you, I was dreading doing this presentation. I was like, oh my gosh, imposter syndrome, like yay high. And when I started putting these things down, what I realized is I did all of these things all at an exponential rate, simultaneously and integrated. And that's my giftedness. And other people might be gifted in one bit, advanced cognitive abilities or task commitment, but mine somehow was bringing all of these together, and I'm able to do all of these things in exponentially, and I'm able to do it in a very integrated kind of fashion. That's my giftedness.
Yeah, I often share with young adults who really realize it or come to know about their talent or giftedness much later in life, to compare themselves and see, look around the peers and where do they see themselves. And I often find that people discount their excellence. They'd say, oh, but this comes so easily to me. I don't think so. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So this is something I find people doing. And even if it's obvious to them, even if they are able to see, like you rightly said, exponentially to excellent multitasking, multi-potential, they still doubt themselves. So that's one of the reasons why at Kaveri Gifted Education Center, we would like to work with having them start much younger, work with parents so that they're able to guide them and give them that kind of support and assurance so that they come as confident young adults as well. So I know you have a lot of interesting things to share with us. Can you just take us on your journey?
Yeah, sure. So what I did was I kind of looked at all of these characteristics, and what I want to share with you is a few stories about what I do. And I think what Dr. Desai and others would say are gifted. I'm just gonna, so I showed you this slide. What would you do in these situations? If you are this kind of kid, what would you do? Well, I know a lot of kids who were like that, and they became real troublemakers at school. They fell out of the system. I didn't. I somehow started to do these crazy things. Like I read and I read and I read. So as a teenager, at the age of, well, not even as a teenager, from the age of about 8 onwards, I was reading books for 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, some adult books, you know, sort of like written for adults. So I was reading, I taught myself weaving. I found an old loom in the house, and we didn't have Google or anything at that time, but my mum kind of explained how things worked. And so I started tying things. I was bored with knitting. I could knit jumpers. So I started weaving. I saw calligraphy, and we did one session at school where our art teacher did some calligraphy with us. And I just badgered my mum and said, "Mum, you have to get me a pen. You have to get me a pen." And I absolutely loved doing calligraphy. So I can write in Gothic, I can write in italics, I can, you know, and do everything so it's measured and stuff. But this was stuff I was doing as a kid. I was doing this as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old. And then I got into, I was always like, is life always going to be like this, with daddy shouting at me all the time and telling me I'm useless? And then somehow, when I was at the library, I got a book on Kiro's palmistry, and I started reading it, and I started thinking to myself, well, how does he know that this is the heart line, and this is the headline, and this is the line? And I was just really confused. By this stage, I think I was 14 or 15. So I started photographing. Do you remember we had those old photocopy machines? I started photocopying my friends' hands. And I would sit and I would look at their characteristics, and I would look at markings on their hands. And then I'd compare it to somebody who had similar characteristics to try and work out, was there anything similar? And that's how I developed my own brand of palmistry, which, by the way, bizarrely today, I mean, I still do it every now and again for people. And people go, "Oh my God, it's so accurate." I mean, it really is just from studying lots and lots of different people's lines. And then I went into numerology and astrology, and I wrote like little short stories, but that's what I did to keep myself busy, because nobody wanted to talk to me, nobody wanted to spend time with me. So it was like me, myself, and I. So I started just doing these things, and my parents didn't encourage me, but they didn't discourage me. They obviously encouraged me to read. My mum was quite artistic, so she was fine with me doing my weaving and calligraphy. She wasn't so happy about the palmistry and the other bits and pieces.
Yeah. Did you find that strange that you were unable to make friends as easily as most people were able to make at that young age?
Yeah, I was, and I just didn't understand. I just kept putting my foot in it, or saying the wrong thing, or being uninteresting. I don't know. I would talk about things that interested me, but nobody else was interested in those things. You know, they were all interested in what was on the television, what the girls' teens magazine said, and fashion and stuff like that. And I really wasn't, I didn't understand that world. So I envied the ones who could make friends easily. And I used to cry a lot. I used to feel very, very lonely. And I was often, you know, the last one chosen when you have assignments to do, like the last one to get a partner, and all of this. So it was quite difficult. So again, I ended up doing really bizarre things. So, for example, my mum and dad wouldn't let us, because we were growing up in 1970s Britain, they wouldn't let us mix with white people, right? They didn't want us mixing with white people. They would only let us mix with Indians, but only under their supervision. And I just thought, and I was getting kind of claustrophobic, and I don't know, there was something in me that said that if I carry on down this path, I will just become a troublemaker and there will be serious trouble. So I thought, what can I do? And I thought, if I can't beat them, let me join them. So my parents were part of this Hindu society. And I thought, surely if we do something under the auspices of the Hindu society, the parents will agree. So I suggested at age 15 that we set up a youth club. And my parents actually supported me and said, that's a great idea. If you're going to be mixing with Hindus, that's okay. I mean, that was a big thing for them back then. So I set up this youth club. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'd seen my mum do community things and my dad do community things. And I thought, okay, I can get people together. And I found that in the youth club, actually, I wasn't so strange anymore. I had more people who understood me. I set up a band when I was 14, and I used to write lyrics. And actually, I have to tell you, the guy who used to write the music is now one of England's most famous comedians. He's a guy called Paul Sinha. He's been on the television. He's in this series called The Chase. Unfortunately, very sadly, he's got Parkinson's, but he's my definition of a genius. I mean, that man, he's a qualified doctor, but went into comedy. He was our lead singer, and like he was the music person and I was the lyrics person. And my cousin, actually, I was talking to her about doing this presentation. I was like, Anju, they call me gifted. And she goes, you are gifted. And I was like, and then she started singing one of the songs from those times. And that was like 30 years ago. So she remembers that song even now. So it was really nice. And, you know, I DJ'd on local radio. I actually studied Kathak for many, many years. And then when I got into my 20s, I escaped the country because I really needed to get away from my parents. So these aren't normal things that I think normal teenagers do, but I kind of put it to the back of my mind until Dr. Desai, you and I started talking, and I started, you know, you started saying, so what did you do when you were younger? How did you have fun? And I was thinking, I didn't have fun in the traditional ways of let's go to the movies or let's go out for dinner. I did these things. These were fun for me.
So you would say fun is defined differently for gifted, because that's the classical thing that I also noticed is when a group of children, especially in our schools also, we see that some of them are able to make friends. It's not that all gifted have struggles with making friends.
Absolutely.
Some of them do struggle, and they find that they need to find their niche, and it is a struggle sometimes. Nevertheless, when they do find it's a lot of fun because you have a lot of people who you can relate to. You are doing something different, but yet something that you can discuss together with each other as well. And I think creating such groups is really very important, basically. So schools should really promote where children are identified, because from what you say, if the educators were aware and they were sensitive, they would be able to reassure you that you're not any different or weird as you were thinking, and say that if you had multiple interests, that's fine as well. So it's very important that educators are able to kind of reassure students and also parents if they're awareness. I'm sure today there are much more awareness than it was before, but it's always nice to know that we need to continue to build awareness across, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that idea of being able to put, you know, I felt so alone as a child. And even in my adult years, really, until I met you and I understood more about myself and how I operate, until then, I almost seen it as a handicap that I can't do this, I can't do that. And if there had been any kind of educators or teachers or mentors around that said, hey, why don't you spend some time with this person or that person? Why don't you try this activity? And I see that, and I definitely think things have changed, because both of my kids, they're both at university now. In fact, my son has just finished his third year, so he's graduated. And he did everything 2 years early, so he's just turned 20, so he's graduated 2 years early. They were much better with them, but because I intervened as an adult, as a parent, and said, look, she's hypersensitive, and so you need to, if you're going to do a new activity with her, she needs to be made more aware of it. And with my son, it was like, I mean, he had to go up 2 grades because he was just bored. He was coping with everything, but he was bored. And like you said, Jay found it very easy to make friends. Now I find it incredibly easy to make friends, but at that time it was very difficult. And just a little bit of guidance can stop you from feeling like the village idiot, handicapped, or like an imposter.
Yeah, I kind of don't like the word imposter, but then it's very popular and it's a syndrome that is always shared. Many gifted really feel that it's almost like maybe this is running good for me right now, but maybe in 2 days' time, like magic, my giftedness or my advanced talent will disappear. There's always this constant doubt rather than confidence saying that this is who I am and I can be the way without being apologetic to anybody and in the society, basically. So I think it's absolutely, important that even as a parent, I'm sure that must have helped you, because I was sharing with you, unless you become confident, how would you share with your children? And
Yeah.
I think you're able to make them feel much more self-assured of themselves than they would have been otherwise. So what has that, I mean, you must be definitely be able to see that transition for them, because they were teenagers when you really looked at them as being equally talented and gifted in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the first things that was important was showing them that there was no weakness in having weaknesses and accepting that you have weaknesses. Like, there were times, so I'm a single mother. I got divorced in 2017, the same year. And I think it's all connected at the end of the day. My brain was working in different ways, whatever. But my kids would sometimes see me crying, and I never hid it from them. And Zara especially, she was the younger one, and she'd be like, "Mummy, Mummy, don't cry," and she'd start crying as well. And I'm like, "Hey, hold on a minute. How many times do you see me crying?" And she said, "Not very often." And I said, "Okay, so is Mummy allowed to have a bad day?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yes." And I said, "This is my bad day. It's okay, isn't it? You don't need to cry just because it's Mummy's bad day. In fact, you should be happy so you can help Mummy get out of the bad day, like Mummy tries to help you." And then she was like, okay. And then she would come to me periodically and she'd go, "Mummy, I'm having a bad day." So it was just really cute, but just accepting it and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Every time I give a presentation, you have no idea. Like, I do presentations all the time, but every time I do a presentation, I am having kittens, the English expression. I am panicking. I'm like, this is going to be the wrong level. This is too basic. And my kids would see me, and then I do the presentation and they go, "How did it go?" And I go, "Oh, it went really well." And then they go, "Well, see, we knew that was going to happen." So, but just them seeing me like that was, I think, very important. I think as parents, we spend too much time. I think somebody's got the speaker on.
Yeah, can you just mute?
Yeah.
Thank you, Pooja.
I was just going to say that I think too much we try and be brave and not show our kids what we're going through. They learn exponentially if they can see what we're going through and see that we deal with it in a positive way. If we just wallow in it, if we're just always miserable, then they're going to learn that that's the way you should be. But if you deal with the problem, you have your miserable bit, you get out of it, that's actually very good.
So here what I see is actually, this is common for anybody. It doesn't mean specifically for gifted. Parenting is normal. So these are things that we need to role model as parents, and children will definitely learn how to really be. So there has to be a striking balance between being, at times doing the normal thing, which is really important, the regular thing, and there are areas in which you will be a little more, sensitive, more aware of things that you need to really focus as a parent, which is more unique to being gifted and being a parent of a gifted child, etc. So this difference is something that parents have to understand basically, because it's not treating the child extremely special or discounting the child as well. When you can't do both, right? You have to be appropriate to the context. So if it is to do with something with talent and something very specific to that needs encouragement, then one needs to do. And if it is, we have to role model and create consequences for the child, we'll have to do that as well. They can't have special privileges just because they are gifted or talented.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just one other thing that I would want to bring up. I don't think I am especially academically brilliant at any one subject, right? Or, like these maths gifted kids and etc., etc. I don't think I have a brilliance in that respect. I do think, however, if I'd had somebody who really kind of sat and looked at me, I think they could have found something that I probably would have excelled in. Certainly writing is one thing that I've made my life, and public speaking, but both of them happened to me, and then I kind of like committed to those two things, doing more of it. But I do wish in some ways that I'd had someone who had kind of told me, hey, do you see that you're really good at these 2 or 3 things?
Yeah, that's really very interesting. And I just want to bring one more thing to notice. When you talked about writing, and you're very creative, and creative is just not the word, basically. We're talking about the way you bring paradigm shifts in the way you write, the way you bring narrations to a story, and it comes so naturally to you. You always challenge the obvious, and that is, and anybody could know if they're interacting with you. So can you just share a little more about this? I mean, you did say that you were like that since childhood, but you also seem to have honed it as you grew up into your literary areas, into your other aspects of your profession as well. So can you just share about it?
I guess again, one of the challenges that I faced, I moved out to Eastern Europe when I was 25. And I wanted to get away from my parents. I was a qualified chartered accountant, but my parents were still very much, sort of like on me. And I felt like I needed to breathe. So I just decided to take a job in Eastern Europe, in Romania, of all places. When I was in Romania, I experienced, and in Eastern Europe, I spent 10 years in Eastern Europe, I experienced a lot of isms. When I say isms, things like racism, sexism, positionism, heightism. Like, I'm 5'1". They're all 6'2" over there, right? All these different isms. Now, a standard person, not a standard person, I would say, okay, not Vandana, anyone else who's there, they would go through it, they would complain to their friends, they would come up with solutions and everything. What did I do? I decided that I needed to reimagine this world where minorities were actually the majorities. And because I felt that they had special gifts that they could give to this world, but we're just not allowing them. So I came up with this absolutely crazy story in my head about a teenage girl who lives in a tier 2 city in India. And she's very unhappy. You can hear the parallels here. Teenage girl. Her parents are university professors. So they've done these semester exchanges abroad in different countries. And she keeps going with them and she gets dragged back and she feels very uncomfortable. And then she finds out that her parents are actually not from Earth. They're from other planets. And they've been sent to Earth to try and work out why humans are intent on killing themselves and the planet. And this is where everyone goes, oh, it must be about environmentalism. No, it's not. She finds out that her mother is from a planet where any baby that dies on Earth in the womb or within 11 minutes of being born, its soul goes to another planet and is born there. But because we're killing so many female babies in India, China, South America, and Africa, that planet is and always has been 80% female. Now, it's not a good or bad statement, but 80% of our history has been written by men and about men. 80% of religion has been written by men about men. 80% of art, history, whatever you take, right? And 80% is probably low, but it's the one where I never get queried. So I always say 80%. What if the world had always been 80% female? Would we have working hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? We just wouldn't. Like women would just never do that. Would we have borders with 1 million women on this side and 1 million women on that side, ready to kill each other? The answer is no, we wouldn't. How do I say that with so much certainty? I mean, I studied matriarchal tribes. I studied matriarchal species. I did focus group discussions with different types of people. And I put all of these thoughts together into this planet and then extrapolated over generations what that could look like. And it's not a perfect planet by any means, but it's very, very different from the way we run Earth. And so whenever I have a major problem, I kind of escape to that planet in my head and say, how would they deal with this? Because actually, you know, it's a really sad fact to say there are over 50 million females that have been aborted just in India alone. Absolutely. 50 million, right? And so if you then extrapolate that across the world and you think about how many women are not present in this world, and if they were, what kind of impact could that have had? People create, like in Wonder Woman, if any of you have seen Wonder Woman, their mascara is like, it's like, let's take what men do and let's make it female. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, what are the divine characteristics, qualities of women? And if they were allowed to play out naturally, what could that do? And equally, like the women's planet, there's a children's planet. What if we allowed our kids to just really do what they want and we didn't put out, you know, beta ye karna hai, wo karna hai. If we didn't do any of that and we allowed them to be, what would that planet look like? So I have all these different planets. I have like these 9 planets in my head that I've been building for 15 years. So that's what I mean. I mean, like that's very much part of me now.
So wonderful, Tia. I know that we can go on and on, but I'd like questions from our audience if anybody is interested. We've kept some time for people to interact with Vandana, and we are here from KGRC as well. Please post your questions, or you could just unmute and start. Thank you, Rajni. Very glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad you like the concept.
Vandana ji, I'm Dipali here, and I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for speaking so clearly and with so much clarity and lived experience that really reaches me. I'm not listening to your words. I'm listening to your energy, the place you're coming from. I'm a deeply intuitive person myself. My question is for the gifted adults. Since you're one and you seem to have created a balanced life of with your gift, you're able to serve with it and do more than just survive and take care of yourself. What if you are mostly, your gift is about being extremely creative, which is driven by a lot of awareness of emotions and other people's emotions, and a lot of perception. And you do have massive triggers every few years, which completely halts your life at all levels. Like literally, you just have to rewire everything. You have to go soul searching. You have to literally change your identity. It seems like unlearn, de-learn, and relearn all over again. I'm also a parent of a gifted boy, which is really helped me because my own struggles helped me make it easier for him. So that's a great. And he's a walking support now. Like it's just way of being informs me. So that's like a great thing. But what do you have to say to such people who have this kind of extrasensory perception just heightens when you're going through that trigger? And at one level, I know it becomes all shamanic and it's very enlightening experience. And but that absolutely there's no space for empathy from your own best friends, and it's just you. It's not their fault, I believe. But anyway, I'll stop here. I think you got my point.
Yeah, no, Dipali, first of all, thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing so openly and honestly. Look, I go through exactly what you're saying, you know, those periods, and they hit me much harder than they hit my friends, right? They really do.
Yep.
And the first thing that I learned, and I really learned this when I was going through my divorces, fundamentally, there will never be anyone else there apart from you. So the only person who can pick you up is you.
Yeah.
Now you are part of this ecosystem, which is fantastic, but don't necessarily expect others to understand. What I did, it's really funny you say that, because what I did was, because I couldn't handle my emotions, I invented a kit. I don't know if you can see this. It's called Invaluable. And it's I've actually invented a kit which helps people work out, first of all, what they really value, what their values are.
Right.
Also understand their triggers, because their triggers are nothing but violations of their values.
Right.
So, for example, if you think about an argument that you might have had, it might not be the words that were said, like you said, but it's that you felt disrespected. So there was a violation of respect.
Right.
And when you can term it in those terms, which is what I've trained myself to do, because with a bipolar narcissistic father and with a mother who's literally on the autism spectrum, like I had to work out how to deal with myself and not keep going down. So I invented this kit to help myself initially and to help my kids. And now I'm using it to help others. So I think it's really important to think about, what are your triggers? And triggers generally are violations of values. So can you work out what's been violated? And then because you are a very intuitive person, I think you feel vibrations. There's a way of shifting the vibrations in that moment. And I'm quite happy to have an offline conversation with you about this, or anyone else who's interested. I'd be happy to do a session at some point to kind of talk through how to do it. But I found that over the last 7 years, I still have down days, but they're not as down and they don't last as long.
Right.
So I still go up and down, but the downs are not so down and they're not so long.
Right. That makes a lot of difference. Could you please just share a little more about the kit? What is it and how does it work?
Sure.
If we would like to take some more questions, if it's okay.
Okay.
We can
do
this.
That's fine. Dipali, I'll send my LinkedIn. I'll put my LinkedIn profile
I would really appreciate it.
Yeah. And anyone, if you want any information, I can send you some worksheets that will just make it a bit easier.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dipali. Anybody else?
There was a question in the chat box. How do you deal with your kids now?
Yeah, that's right. From Devika.
So that's a really interesting one. I've had this very open relationship with my kids. Like I said before, my kids are both at university now. In fact, I'm so happy. My daughter's coming day after tomorrow from the UK. so because I had such a bad relationship with my parents, whenever I leave my kids and I come back to India, and then I'm getting ready to go to the UK again to see them, or I'm going to see them, I immediately go into this overwhelm of, oh my God, I'm going to have a really bad relationship with them now. Like, it's just like, it's in my head that it must be bad. And then the kids come and it's so great. And I'm still the same. I think I'm as much of a friend to them as I am a parent. And I treat them very much as adults. And we talk through, I tell them what's going on in my life. I tell them if I've met someone, what I'm working on, what's been difficult for me, and they do the same. And so it's, but you know, obviously there are challenges. Jay failed, my son, he failed one of his papers, or he didn't do as well as he wanted to in it. And, you know, he sat down and he said to me, Mum, look, I went to university 2 years early. My whole first year, I couldn't do anything at university because I was under 18. My second year, 18 to 19, when I was in my second year, it was all new to me. It was in my third year that I really started to feel comfortable, and I lost the plot. I'm sorry, but this is where we are. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do about it? So we sat down and we made, you know, sort of a plan of what to do. Bring in the father. The father was like, Jay, what did you do? And you know, we're so different as mother and father. And I sat down with his dad and said, listen, you screaming at him is not going to do anything. It's not going to make him feel better. He's not going to do better. So can we just take this very calmly with him, and can I lead it? And luckily he let me, and things have started to, you know, kind of sort themselves out.
Yeah, I think we have Dr. Sheetal who wants to ask a question. Please go ahead, Sheetal.
Very good friend, Sheetal. Hello.
Hi, Vandana. Hello. I'm so,
nice
so,
to see you.
so glad you are here. I'm so glad. And no matter how much you deny that you are not gifted, I've seen you and I've seen all the gifted qualities in you, in Zara, in Jay, and you. Yes. So it's my pleasure to ask you a question here that, it's been like, since we were identified as gifted, and it's been now like almost 30-40 years of being gifted, like that you are identified as gifted. And I feel that people, when you have that tag, they expect things from you. And I feel that is something very I cannot say annoying, but burdening. And when you do different things, like for example, as you said that you are into so many things, and we are not satisfied at all with whatever we are doing, and want to learn more, and people around us just think that you are confused, you are not sure what you want to do. So how do you react to that?
Yeah,
When
no,
they
I think it's a
Yes.
really brilliant question, Sheetal. Thank you for asking it. I have this all the time. I'm part of an entrepreneurs network, and 2 of my businesses have done phenomenally well, and 1 did phenomenally badly. And people kind of look at you and like, why did that happen? Oh, it's because you're doing too many things. And I'm like, well, I was doing too many things when I did the other 2 businesses, and they were phenomenally successful. But people want to put you in a box, and they're not happy until they put you in a box. But it's your choice whether you believe that you're in that box or not. And now I think in my 50s, I can very happily say, I don't care about the boxes. I don't care what other people think. But it is hard because people want to pigeonhole, oh, you're doing something else now. And the problem, it's actually their discomfort, not mine, but they're trying to project it on me. I won't let them anymore. And I think my values work has really helped me know who I am, and therefore know how to react to them. And most of the time I react with compassion and empathy. And I'm like, yeah, it's really hard to understand that I can do all of these things, but you actually do quite a few things, but you do them at different levels. I just try and shift the conversations now.
Great. Very well quoted, Vandana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that working with young children as an adult, and the question that even Dipali was asking of sensitivity, uh, it's easy to say because if you are 24/7 with someone who's extremely sensitive, you're only human to not being as caring and supportive sometimes. So our suggestion is that to be associated with a fraternity or a group of people, we have a parent support group, which is Pan India, which is just a WhatsApp group, but their mothers, most of them are extremely active. I see a lot of them in this group as well. And they share, it's just not about the children. They are also talking about their journeys and what works and what doesn't work. This kind of invisible string of moral support really helps. There are only very few people who really comprehend and understand. And when we say understand, not just understand, but are able to feel and be a part of the journey of a gifted young child or an adult or anyone who's there whom they can relate to. So our suggestion is to see and create these niche for yourself, which will help because sometimes it's your own family, sometimes it's an extended family, sometimes it's not family at all. It's just friends, it's people whom you are able to relate and connect. And that's exactly what we would like to encourage at KGRC because it's not an easy journey. And we're not talking about intensity of emotions. It's not like 1 or 2 days of wallowing in sorrow. It could be months of sulking. And it's very tough to keep saying, come on, cheer up and be like this, be like that. One of the main things that we have been working on, it's not a study yet, but we'll be working on is any form of spirituality really helps. And if it is inculcated from a very young age, we find that something that, like I said, it's an invisible string. Each one uses to their own. So it could be from a religious context, it could be meditation, it could be mindful practices, it could be chanting, it could be just walking in the nature, it could be doing a sport with enough divinity. So whatever each one suits, but bringing something to the child every day so that that helps. And we find that when we do nurturing programs in our schools, we make it a point to bring these kind of experiences. And that really helps. So if that answers to a lot of people who are asking those questions, I think this is what we'd like to share. And I think I saw someone, Saurabh was asking a question. Can you just unmute yourself?
Also, Kalyani has had her hand up.
Hey, hi. Sorry for the background noise. I hope I'm audible. First of all, thank you so much for your, journey and all. Because I was in US recently. My son is in 6th grade, so he was identified as gifted and talented there. So you like your story that you shared, he does multiple things. He's very great at academics, plays sports, plays drums and all. But then there are things, talking to someone or talking in the class, asking a simple question to a classmate. He's very shy about it. And I used to get frustrated at him that if you're so much talented, why lacking in such some things or sometimes in the confidence. So now this gives me a perspective and I'll be very patient and will be able to deal in a different phase with him. So thanks a lot for this.
Welcome.
And another question I have is for such kids, should we, because we feel that they are doing so well, should we keep on giving them more and more challenges? Because I know, I've recently taken admission into Kalmadi High School for 6th grade for him. And I know he can do 8th grade math, he can do 9th grade math, even if he is in 6th grade. But then is it going to be too much? Or, people tell me that you're putting so much pressure on him, but I know he's doing well at academics, he's doing well at 2 sports, he's doing it at competitive level. So is it too much for such gifted and talented kids, or should we keep on giving them, such exposure? And second question is, what are the resources? Because I'm not at all aware of such things in India or in Khalmadi school. So if I can get such resources or such a parent group where I can have, opportunity to visit such programs.
If you're a part of the Kalmadi family, you can just reach out to the school that you are in one of the campuses. You have gifted coordinators, and we have teachers also who are specialized and who do take interest and support, who can guide you as well, if that's helpful. And you can also reach out to the counselors because every year we do training for our in-house teachers and counselors. I'm not saying that all of them would be really up to it, but there are quite a number of teachers who do spend time and who give activities which are challenging, and but you'll have to reach out, or you can even reach out to us at the Kaveri Gifted Center. We'll definitely be able to help you. Yeah. I'd like to share that this initiative is mainly because we want to, bring notice to people so that there's more awareness. And we are launching our first international conference in giftedness. We have wonderful speakers coming from Germany who are talking about mentoring young adults. We have people from the Ministry of Education as well will be present. We have people from across Pan India who are working the field of gifted and talented. There are different programs for educators, parents, research articles which will be presented as well. So please do join us on October 18th and 19th, and we'd love to see and build in more awareness. Basically, that's exactly where we want to really be. So, yeah. Yes, Anil sir, please. You want to say something?
Good evening, ma'am. This is Anil here. I would like to just
Yeah.
share. I had just passed the message. My daughter and I am sitting from. She is doing her lip in art.
Good evening.
Lip in art, and in our
Okay.
school there is more than 40 different clubs are there, where all the school members, right from class 1 to 10, they take parts in various activities, and it will be very much entertained. I'm basically boys hostel warden, and I totally agree to you. Last week we had a football exciting match in the rain. We played, and we had a junior cross country as well, and in behind our school, a very fine valley. There, I took them for a walk and a small jog, and it was a very pleasant. And you'll not believe, ma'am, I was felt so relaxed as it was a holiday, and being spending a time with them, I felt so good. So in the family and this thing, that is also my family only, but I feel very good, and I get more energetic for a week ahead. And I really appreciate all that your session, ma'am. I was attending right from 7 p.m. I sat there.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
thank you so
We
much.
need more people from non-academic as well. As you said, sports is something
Right,
we
ma'am.
really
Yes,
to
ma'am.
work on.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
if it could be of some use, I think Ministry of Education is really looking at expanding in
That's
other
so nice.
areas as well. So thank you so much, and
Thank
keep
you,
up the
ma'am.
good work.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Rajni, you were putting your hand up. Please share.
Good evening. I'll try to be very short and crisp because I think we're running out of time. I believe storytelling therapy is where when you have a problem, the therapist asks you to think of a hero in your life. It can be a fictional hero whom you have like a cartoon hero or a Superman or somebody, and put that person in your shoes facing the same challenge, how that person or that hero would have handled it. So it's kind of getting him to open up the horizons or whatever you say, broaden it so that he can look at it from another angle. But listening to Vandana, I feel her concept is so much more interesting. All those different planets, no? There is no boundary there. It's just open and so much of creativity. I mean, it's brilliant idea. Thank you so much, Vandana, for sharing that concept. I am really awestruck by that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I think this was it. It was just this idea that why are we bound by the social norms that we've grown up in? And this is why, one of the things that I would say to all of you, if you get the opportunity to either spend time in another part of the country that's very different to yours, or go abroad, or send your kids abroad, please do so, because the exposure you get is huge. And these planets came about because wherever I went, I was treated differently. And it was, it was like, pulling everything together. And why is that the case? And why are people like this? And it's really helped me in life the last 15 years, these different planets in my head. It's just helped me so much.
if I may share that, I always say to my husband that he lives in a different world, to the world that we all live, and somehow I seem to understand this world and the normal world. So I'm this person who's moving between the two worlds. So it's always important, it's just a suggestion. Maybe Vandana also has something like that. When we switch and we say that we are in this different world, there is little comfort and there's a lot of cocooning that happens, and then you can feel brave and positive when you move into the other world, that people are very critical about the way we are because we are very different and all that stuff as well. So you need to really pick up some really innovative ways of dealing with things, because technically, if you ask, all of us are different, and maybe all of us are weird. It's just that the majority would say that the other person is weird. So it's something that can be debated. But Gifted do have a quirky sense of humor, and I think I really enjoy interacting with them mainly because of that. Yes, thank you so much. It has been an overwhelming response, and I must thank each one of you for your patience. We wanted to try out a time 8 to 9 because we felt that that's a suitable time for many of them to get back and to have a conversation. And I'd like to thank my wonderful friend Vandana for sharing your journey, for being so candid and so wonderful, open about all your experiences, because they are different experiences. And the more you share, it gives insight to a lot of people to see that they are not alone. And that's exactly what we wanted to say. There are so many of them that they will be able to reach out. So thank you so much, Vandana, for being with us.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I just want to say I'm very, very grateful to you, to Samina, to Malti ji, all of you. I mean, I could honestly almost cry over it. You helped me realize I was whole when I thought I was half, and you really changed my life, and that's why I'll always do whatever I can to support you and the work that all of you are doing.
Thank you so much. You're being just very gracious. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We
thank you so
really
much.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Vandana, so much. And it's always nice that you are so open in connecting and contributing, because we need more people to speak up and speak out their experiences as an adult, as a parent. And I'm sure this has been meaningful to a lot of us here.
Thank you.
So for those who are still there, please continue being in touch with us, because we are coming up a few more such series before our conference, and we'd like to see each of you in person. So thank you so much and good night.
Thank you so much, Vandana ji and Devasanya. It was really wonderful to